but the human species is the most adaptable species that's ever existed on Earth. And that's what we learn from. So whatever the catastrophe is, and whatever the issue is, whatever the trauma is, it's to get past that and to see how do we survive, and then not only survive, but to thrive. And that's the human condition. So with all the wars and pestilences and diseases and all these things that have happened throughout history, and both historically and personally, we need to move forward. And the transformation is really to say, let's take whatever happened, learn from it, and grow from it. And that's how we adapt.
Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Steve Ramona. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. Steve Ramona. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness.
Shout out to my sponsors, A Mind for All Seasons. Your brain is your greatest competitive edge, so why not optimize it? Just text OPTIMIZE to 72000, 72000 for instant access to 6 quick videos that help you think faster, remember more, and stay focused longer. A big thanks to Epic App, the 4-step storytelling system I use every day to connect and to convert. Try it free. Email me at stever1961@gmail.com. That's stevr1961@gmail.com, and I'll get you the free app. Doing Business with a Servant's Heart was just named top 6 in small business marketing. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and I'm so excited to have you on. And I'm going to start with a little gratitude. I've got this little gratitude card. I'm going to start with every podcast to get this in that servant mentality. And today's gratitude is: the hardest battles often lead to the most beautiful victories. Oh my gosh, it's the end of 2025, and what a great message. Again, the hardest battles often lead to the most beautiful victories. With that being said, we're going to come on with a guest that I met a few months ago, and we just found out he lived in my neighborhood probably many, many years ago. But this is a power of people, and I think of podcasts, and we were just talking about that. But podcasts and writing books are so similar. It's your story. And we're going to talk about that and much, much more with the show. So let's bring our guest on. Mick, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's good to see you again, my friend. Small world, right?
You as well. Dressed so dapper. You popped up on the Zoom. I'm like, he's a dapper looking dude. I love it. Doctor of Digital, it's your title, whatever you call it. I love it. People see that. What do you want them to see?
Well, I think it's just to give a little bit of my background, and that's where the name came from. So the doctor part is obvious, got a PhD. And then in 1994, I was in education, and I just saw everything moving towards the internet and being digital in nature. So that's kind of hence the Doctor of Digital, because I've seen everything move that way. And here we are in podcasting and using Zoom and all those tools, and it's all digital. So I think there's a digital transformation that has taken place, and sometimes faster in some areas, slower in others, but definitely moving in that direction. And since we're talking today, here we're talking about AI, and AI is, to me, is the internet on steroids. So everything is digital. So it's a digital world, but it's also, in my life, I'm a pre-digital person, and I'm trying to get the balance of what was happening before the digital era, but then also trying to stay updated and current and just up to date with everything else that is happening very fast and much quicker than ever before.
We're in the same boat. I'm the same way. As I got this and that, and how do we mix and match and work, and we'll figure it out. We just got to have the faith that we do. And I love that you added transformation, because my wife sent me an Instagram reel. I don't watch those, and a lot of people are on social media in the digital, and it was The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, taking 100 kids from the YMCA and have them come to Walmart and buying them all a $500 gift card, and 5 of them got a golden ticket. Really cool Willy Wonka theme. But that transformed me, because I've told you and now the audience, and told 5 or 10 people during this Christmas time this week, That's transformational. How can we make our digital products and brands and everything more transformational?
Yeah, and I think it's probably that old in the new, something along those lines,
Mhm.
because I think if people are always at the cutting edge of things, they kind of lose whatever came before. And I think if you're really looking at, here's the academic side of myself, that tradition is traditio, and it seems to be kind of an ossified thing that people ordinarily think, well, it's old, it's traditional and stuff, but that's not exactly what that word means. And what the Romans meant by it is you have to take the best of the past and also apply it to the present. So when you're talking about transformation, that's essentially what we're talking about. You don't want to completely dismiss the things of the past because they are worthwhile, but you have to balance it and keep it updated for the present. So transformation is let's experience the best of the past and also the innovation of the present, because there was a time where innovation was a bad thing. In fact, in some European countries, they actually banned innovation of all things. So you can't do that, but it's the balance that's really important. And I think that's how we get to be transformative. You take the experiences and the things that happen in life and then make the best of it that you can. So that's the growth mentality.
Even those stories that are negative results, obstacles, catastrophes, traumas that happen in your past, we can still bring those forward from lessons we learned.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. I mean, if you look at why we're here and the human species, it's the thing about us that's adaptable. So when I used to be teaching and as a professor, I would say to my students, what was the essential problem with the dinosaurs? And kind of scratch their heads, and I don't know what you're saying. Well, they didn't adapt. And that's why they're no longer here. So you don't want to be a dinosaur because they don't adapt, but the human species is the most adaptable species that's ever existed on Earth. And that's what we learn from. So whatever the catastrophe is, and whatever the issue is, whatever the trauma is, it's to get past that and to see how do we survive, and then not only survive, but to thrive. And that's the human condition. So with all the wars and pestilences and diseases and all these things that have happened throughout history, and both historically and personally, we need to move forward. And the transformation is really to say, let's take whatever happened, learn from it and grow from it. And that's how we adapt. So the species is, we can go into the oceans, we can go to the moon someday. If Elon Musk is correct, we're going to go to Mars. That's essentially what the human species is all about. So it's both destructive and creative at the same time, but we need to be transformative and look at life from that lens that we can learn from this. So when something bad happens, I always think of it like, well, it's just my turn, right? So I don't take it personal. It's just happens to be my turn. And the people that I admire are the ones that have come back from some really horrible thing or something traumatic and then transform themselves into something better and stronger. As Nietzsche said, that which does not kill me helps me grow. And that's absolutely true.
And that's my stories and my podcast we were talking about before the show. So many people have had trauma and catastrophic events, and now better than ever now today, and learned, and they're sharing on my show. And we'll talk about your podcast real quick here in a minute. It's powerful. Well, speaking of transform, let's stay on that vein. You're transformable because you got a PhD, spent all that time, of course, a lot of money, which, okay, you got educated, but now you're a book coach or you're working with authors. How'd that transformation happen?
Well, it goes back a little bit. One of the pre-interview questions you asked me. So I'm old enough where I would be in a generation that was considered non-college material, and no one made any bones about it. It's like simply, well, you're not qualified, you're not smart enough. So I thought to myself, well, maybe, maybe not. But I did like to read a great deal, and I did love to learn. So when I got one of my first college advisors, because I had no idea how college worked at all, I only had a half uncle who went to college. Nobody else from my family went. This guy said to me something about education. And I said, well, explain to me, what is education about and what are the degrees? I'd never heard that before. He goes, well, he explained what a master's is and a PhD. And I go, well, how do you know if you're most educated? It's a PhD. So I go, well, okay, that's what I want. I had no idea really what was entailed, how much it cost or how long, but the guy told me, well, if you want to be an educated person, get one. So I said, okay, I'll go get one. So that's essentially what happened. And long story short, then obviously it took a long time, a number of degrees, because the old man would say things like, are you a permanent student? Are you ever going to get out of school? So something like 9 certificates and 3 advanced degrees. But I think that really helped me to know and to grow into what it meant to be an educated person. And I know things have changed after my generation because a lot more people went to college and the standards are not as high. But I went at a time when it was really difficult. All that being said, that means I really understand how to publish and especially how to deal with ideas. And that was the key thing I got out of academia. So I also got out of the institutional setting of academia. Too many politics, too much fighting, and it's territorial. So there's a famous quote by Henry Kissinger, who was an academic before he was Secretary of State. And he was asked about academia, and he said that the reason that academic debates are so vicious is because the stakes are so small. I know that really explains a lot about academia. So don't need the territorial fighting, don't need the politics. Why not just deal with the ideas and the people? And that's really what explains how I got to be a book coach. So if a person pitches an idea and tells me something that they have in mind, I can tell you really quickly who that's going to appeal to, if it's going to appeal to people, what publishers to work with or for, whether you want to self-publish. I came out with a clear path in terms of chapters, what needs to go in each chapter, and I figure that out for a person. And it's also really key to see the ROI. So I have a slogan on LinkedIn, which is write the book, grow the business. And the idea there is that a book should be an asset, and that is something which is really an ROI product. So yes, it is a creative process as well too. And yes, you can be creative when you're doing that kind of work, but it really should be doing something which is telling what the story is. A person who has been successful, they've been transformative, they've had a traumatic experience and grown from it, they have a proprietary system, they're successful now, and I think that's what the world will benefit from, and that's why I think it's so key to find those individuals and those special books that should be out there. So like any academic, that not every idea is of equal value, and likewise, not every book is of equal value. So a famous quote by Francis Bacon, who said that many books can be read, but a few should be digested. I think that really kind of nails it. So a book that's really important, that really is transformative, that really makes an impact and should be out there in the world, that's the kind of book that I'm looking for, and I help authors get that message out.
I gotta say, you're such an underachiever with that academic background. I can't believe. I mean, I can barely say it out, and that's an audience. This is why I love coaches, because I use the mechanic phrase. That car behind you, that's my car, and the engine dies. Well, I don't want to replace the engine. Yeah, I could spend time, but hours and and less money. It's like a book. It's because I get asked this all the time from entrepreneurs I mentor. Should I write a book? And I'm going to send them to Mick here, because that's not my expertise. That's your expertise. And a lot of people self-publish, and some are successful, but I hear a lot aren't. So the question is, as I get to it, who should write a book? Who should be an author?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. It really hits the heart of publication today. So today, everybody can be a publisher, right? So everybody can do it, but it's the question always, who should actually do it? So that's what I mean by saying you have to have a quality idea. So what's your thesis? What are you saying that is not been said before and that is really fresh, or somehow that's different? And that's why I come back to talking about a proprietary system. So give you an off the wall example. A person has been manufacturing widgets, but they are the manufacturing widget person in the universe, right? So it's never been documented. So it may not sound like the most exciting type of idea, but it truly is, because manufacturing may have some really significant contribution to make, and that's true of any field. So what are you doing that's different? How do you differentiate yourself? So in a time where anybody can publish if they really want to, and there's where self-publishing comes in. And yes, there are some great options there, and that's awesome that anybody can. But I'm really interested in working with people to say, is this a quality idea? This is really make a contribution. So I'll give you an example. Again, it's the academic thing. When I didn't know what the heck a PhD dissertation was, and I asked my dissertation advisors, like, how do I find a good idea for a dissertation? What's the definition? So they told me something that is an original contribution to scholarship. I go, okay, now I have a better idea. That means I can't just do what everybody else has done or somebody else has done. Exactly. It's got to be totally unique. No one has ever done that before. So likewise, in looking for a potential author or authors to work with, that's sort of what I'm looking for, something which is really unique, which is really different. And you think of the slogan that I said, write the book, grow the business. Well, that's the whole point. If you are doing something that no one else has done or figured out, that's a good idea. That book needs to be published. And that's how I would come up with saying, how do you distinguish between any other idea or a number of possibility of ideas and one which is really key and really essential. So just like any academic, I learn a lot from people. So if you're a manufacturing widget expert, I really want to know, how did you do that? How did that work? And then I learn something, and that's where I can grow from learning and benefiting from people that I don't know what their field is, and I don't really know, and I'm not an expert in what they've done.
It's a powerful story because every business has a story, but they just don't know how to get it out there. And that's what you do. So high in academia, you went to the tops of the tops. How did that help you with storytelling?
Well, I think it does really help a lot because it clarifies things. So if you're working with someone, this is what a coach does. They bring clarity because any book is a massive project and it can be overwhelming. So what Mark Twain said is definitely the case. He said, there's only 3 rules of good writing. What are those 3 rules? Well, rule number 1, good writing is hard work. Rule number 2, good writing is hard work. Rule number 3, good writing is hard work. So in order to get there, it's really helpful to have a coach to help and assist through that process. And that's where I think it's really helpful for people. They don't necessarily know how to structure their ideas. They don't know the sequence of ideas, and that really comes down to chapters. And that's why I'm saying if a person pitches the idea, tell me what the idea is, then I can get a chapter by chapter path for them to write. And once they have that in place, then they have a much clearer idea of what to write and what chapter it goes in. So there is something like 60% of people that I contact or have contacted me have said they've actually got a book. And you go, how does that happen? Well, if they look through their Google Docs, if they look through their LinkedIn posts, or if they're podcasting, they're already creating content. But what they don't know how to do is to take all of that essential content that they have, and put it in the form of a book. And that's where I can assist them, because I can show them the path. I can show them how to put their ideas together. And there you have this huge, super large project, and yet it's divided into actual parts that makes it much more manageable and essential. And that's where I say, again, from writing so much in academia, I've got something like over 100 academic publications. I know how to take ideas and put them in the form that they should be presented in order to be published. And that's where I can assist others. Like, you got a good idea, but let me just show you how to put it together so that it's not so overwhelming and you don't get stuck somewhere.
Yeah, you're kind of like the vault. Give me all your content on the vault. I will disperse it and what's important, what's not. And an audience, if you're thinking of writing a book, he just gave you a huge tip to get started. Find all your content and then reach out to Mick, give it to him and let him decide. Because that's the thing I think with books that don't succeed is they think like nonprofits, I've got this passion to save whales. Nothing wrong with that. But can I really do it in a nonprofit? Can I do it in a book? And the book comes out and nobody buys it.
Yep.
Go ahead.
The sad fact about books is that people don't understand that most books don't sell more than 1,000 copies. So if the person is thinking, yeah, it's a great idea, which is, yeah, save the whales, that's okay, but it's also overwhelming too. most books don't really sell. So you have to take that into consideration. And to get the message out, there's other ways of doing it, which is podcasting and speaking and talking to corporate people and corporate events and things of that nature. That's where the real growth comes in.
You know, you're a really good coach because you're making me smarter. So audience, in real time, he's coaching me, because my first thought is with a book is, should I do it or not? But just go get my content and see if it's real. And go to you, and I'm gonna, I'm sure you meet with me or whoever and go, here's what I'm thinking about, instead of taking all that. Because books, the other thing is time. They're not, these people that say write books in 3 days or 3 weeks, they're crazy, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could be done.
Well, it can be done, but is it done well? That's the point. And I think there's where that kind of academic background is really helpful, because yeah, anybody can really put together ideas in terms of writing. So, I know what a subject is, I know what a verb is, I know what a direct object is, and most people do. However, when you're really talking about an essential idea, it's the developmental part of it that is really key. So it's not just the words, but it's really, is this put in such a form, in a storytelling form, that will be compelling to other people? Because the burden of writing is always on the writer themselves. So when I was teaching writing to students, this is what I always tell them. And they would always be amazed. They would say, like, how did you know that I was bored when I wrote this? Because I really wasn't having fun. I go, well, it's the tone. The tone is obvious. And, the person who is reading can understand the tone. So that's what's key and essential in working with an author, is to say, you have to be really knowledgeable, but then also put it in such a way that developmentally it really makes sense, and strategically this makes sense. So is there an audience who needs this book that you are thinking about? And is there an audience out there for what you want? For example, great example, what you said. Sure, I'd love to save the whales too. However, that's such a huge problem. Yeah. Is it really going to have the impact that you want it to have? And books are very similar. Is there an audience out there? Are people looking for it? Is there a gap in the knowledge industry that you're really addressing? And that's really what's key in order to write an effective and transformative type of book.
I'm almost speechless here because I can't add to that's so good. Audience, hope you wrote notes down, because I got a lot of notes. And audience, here's the thing: I have a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners listening to this. You said something key. A book is an asset, like your building, your cars, your machine, asset. So the big question is, okay, if I don't sell a lot of books, how can I make the book more of an asset to my business besides just selling it?
Yeah, and that is really key. And this is what I'd like business owners and founders and creators and CEOs to think of, because it is an asset. So just like if you were the manufacturing example that I gave, and you're going to manufacture and you need a machine, right? So you have to make a capital investment. A book is also an investment, but it's content, and that is also really key. So how do you make money from it? It's not necessarily from the book sales. However, once you have a book out there for your current clients, well, you can charge them more and higher fees, because now you have a system which has been identified and also published and is in a tangible form. You can get on the speaking circuit, which is the podcasting route, the speaking circuit, and also you can give the book away free, because there you've got now all these people who have receptive to your message. And once you get an even larger audience, well, they're going to start coming to you because of what you have in the book. So then you're going to get shortened sales cycles. You will get more clients as a result. And what books do, and everybody will tell you, it's credibility and authority. So I can say that I'm the manufacturing whiz for the last 30 years, but that's just a statement. However, if I'm the manufacturing whiz and I can hand you a book, which is a tangible product, and put it in your hands, now all of a sudden I can say, well, son of a gun, you are really the expert, because you've now written about it and documented it. So it's really from all those peripheral or ancillary types of activities: speaking, podcasting, shortened sales cycles, getting more clients, charge your higher fees. That's why it's an ROI asset for your business.
I love being an older guy because I get to learn. Brand awareness pops in my head. Is that's what you're doing? You know, you're 30 years, two generations of families in this business, but nobody knows about you. It's going to be a little bit harder. Yeah, you're going to have all the previous clients, but why not another asset? This is beautiful. I've had a lot of book coaches on, and you really nailed it in a very unique way. Last question as we come to the end here. Podcasting, why do you love it so much?
Well, I think it's what I was told. See, way back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth and I was in broadcasting, the idea of broadcasting was you were broadcasting to all kinds of people. That's why it's broad. On the other hand, podcasting, which is similar, is one-to-one. And what we were told in broadcasting, you should be speaking as if you were talking to one person. And what podcasting does is it immediately does that because it's not broadcasting. Podcasting is one-to-one. The other advantage, I loved it because look at it if in terms of a message and communication, you were literally in people's heads because they usually have headphones on or they're listening closely. You are talking one-to-one. So it has that human dimension even though it's a technological medium that's being used. And that's why I love podcasting. And I always tell everybody for my podcast, the Doctor of Digital podcast, it's like I'm always looking for education and inspiration. And if I learn something and I'm inspired, then I think other people are as well. And that's the one-on-one human connection that we have to have because that's the way we are and we exist as a species.
Make me so happy. That's what I talk about podcast. We're on the same highway, two different lanes, but we're going in the same direction. Thank you so much. That's powerful. Well, let's end with a little fun question I always put out to my guest. So I'm gonna reserve a table with me and you're gonna sit and have dinner. I want you to invite 3 people who've been influential in your life. They could be dead or alive, doesn't matter. But more importantly, what is Mick gonna order for the table for food?
Well, I like just about everything, so it's really hard to narrow it down because when people ask what kind of food you like, I go, yes, because I like Cajun food, I like Chinese food, I like Italian food, I like the conversation. And it's really key because that happens to do with one of those things that you break bread. So this comes down into religious traditions of all across the world. You break bread and you can talk to people. So that conversation and breaking bread together is a really key and essential human connection that people have. So I don't care what they order anything, just anything to have to eat, but I like the conversation and especially eating while having the conversations with good and interesting people.
Beautiful. So who are the 3 people you would invite?
3 people I would invite. Okay, who is still alive or who is dead? I can pick anyone. I'm going to pick my favorite songwriter, Ian Hunter, because I wrote a book about him. So I'd like to sit and chat with him. I also like a big influence on him. And just because he has a wordsmith, I'm going to invite Bob Dylan. And I also want to talk to that philosopher that I mentioned because he makes me angry, makes me happy, makes me sad. And his writing is so darn effective. And that would be Friedrich Nietzsche. So I would take those 3 individuals and let's rock and roll. Let's see what we could talk about.
Well, I'm going to learn so much at that table. You know, I ask these questions. I go, sometimes I wish like this one, I wish I could really do this table, but that's okay. We'll do it in our minds. And that's a great way of doing it. Mick, thank you so much. You're a blessing. And real quick, I know people are going to ask me the Buick behind you. What's the story behind that?
Well, it does have a story because we are storytelling animals. Yes, that is actually my parents' first new car. I keep it in my dad's memory because other than mom, that was his baby. So that has a lot of childhood memories and it really is important for me and my family. That is a 1957 Buick Special 46-R. I know everything there is to know about that car. And yeah, it's been a really important part of our family. So I know when it was built, I know the date it was built, and everything about it, the colors, the color scheme. My parents got the red stripe, which was extra. It cost them all of $36 to get that extra red stripe on it. But yeah, it's a beautiful car. I keep it in my dad's memory.
I'm not a car lover and I'm not big on old cars, to be honest, but that's a beautiful car. That's why I asked. It is absolutely. Do you know what they paid for it? Do you remember?
Yeah, they gave me some of the hints and stuff, and I've asked those questions. Yeah, it cost them all of about $2,600 at the time. So 1957, it went a long way. My dad was a factory worker, and it was one family income, so money was tight, and that was actually kind of a step up because the parents wanted a Buick and not just a Ford or a Chevy. So it was one step beyond, and that's why it probably made so much. My dad was really proud of the fact that it was kind of a little element of success, I think.
That would be a cool car to drive around right now.
It is.
That's what I guess. Oh, it's still drivable? You still driving it?
Oh yeah, yeah, certainly do. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Oh, what a great story. That's why stories are so great. Well, I know the audience wants to connect with you. How can they connect? Where can they find your 2 books and the podcast?
Yeah, sure. The podcast, the Dr. Digital podcast, best way to get a hold of me is on LinkedIn because I'm always there. Mick Smith, the PhD, the Doctor of Digital, the Dr. Digital podcast, a couple of books on Amazon, that is Burning America and On Track, Ian Hunter.
And I'm going to do this. I love this guy. I'm just going to say it. I first met him, we really connected. And today he just said some wonderful words. We really connect. Audience, the first 3 people that reach out to Mick and mention the podcast, I will send you one of his books. So please make sure you say, hey, I was Steve Ramona's podcast or Doing Business with Servant's Heart. Just mention that to Mick. He'll get me all your information. I will send you out a book. Just need to get your address and do that. So the first 3 people, you guys get a little gift and be able to start the new year with a great story. Why not? With that being said, subscribe to YouTube podcast. What's your podcast name again? I don't want to mess it up.
The Doctor of Digital podcast.
The Doctor Digital, Doing Business with Servant's Heart. I don't care what it is. I used to say my previous podcast, subscribe to mine. And I'd love for you to, but Mick hit this on the head. Podcasts are one-on-one. They're inspirational, they're motivational, and they're educational. Imagine during New Year's, we're coming up to, or you're at a party and somebody's telling you, hey, I need help with my digital. Send them this podcast. It's a gift because here's the quick journey. They listen, they go, I got to reach out to Mick. They reach out to Mick and Mick helps them. Client or not, you impacted them in such a way, small, medium, or large, you've changed them. And we need to do more of that in 2026. So with that being said, me and Mick want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.